I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach about parenting and good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, education, all of those things all over the world. And I talk about them through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about holistic parenting that really works. Now, when I say holistic parenting that really works, am I saying that sometimes holistic parenting might not work? The answer is yes. Holistic is a term that is quite subjective. What does it mean to be holistic? People have their differing of opinions on that. I'm going to share my opinion on what holistic parenting is today, maybe even bring up what a few other people say about holistic parenting and share with you what I know actually works. When I say actually works, what in the world am I talking about? Well, what I mean by actually works is develops the whole child. That's what holistic parenting is the development of the entire child, where the child understands their feelings, their emotions, their relationships, their education, their spirituality, the direction they're headed, that when they see that something has gone wrong, they can evaluate their behaviors and their thoughts and their feelings. Now, this sounds pretty mature, and indeed it is. So how do you help a child develop holistically all of those things when their prefrontal cortexes are really small? Well, what you do is you make sure that you do the holistic training of yourself, and then you set the example of what it means to be in alignment or whole for you, and then you do that deliberate teaching for them again and again. It's going to require some repetition over time, but in short time, a lot shorter than other parents who are not focusing on what we're going to be talking about today, you will actually start to see increased bonding, more optimism, happier days. You will see your children find joy in accepting a no answer from you. Try to talk to you in respectable ways, like disagreeing appropriately with you. They should be able to accept consequences and get themselves to a place of calmness when they're going out of control. Those are just a few of the things that you can teach your child and you can learn yourself with self-government as a holistic model. So what is self-government? Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So this means you understand you and you make the best decisions for you. You focus on the fact that you have a choice in everything that you do. It's not about what happened to you. Now, this is where some holistic parenting models, I would say, miss the mark. A lot of holistic parents are really focused on, okay, let's not just talk about the surface behavior, let's talk about what's underneath the surface behavior. I agree and I don't agree. I agree with the fact that there can be underlying needs that a person has, such as they need a skill and they're not using that skill, or maybe there's a principle that they're not understanding, or maybe they're needing to be understood, but they don't know how to express that. That type of thing I agree with. What I don't agree with is turning every single childhood behavior into some psychoanalysis, okay, to a therapeutic interaction. I don't think that your child should think of themselves as way broken on the inside and have to dive deep into what's happening on the inside that they maybe can't even fully evaluate every single time they've had a behavioral problem, because there's just habits, there's just things that somebody does, trial and error things. We don't have to go super deep into everything. And I think that some parents who have a tendency to go too deep into things because they think that's the holistic way to go end up creating more drama, more frustration, more mental health needs, more anxiety for their child than the parent that just says, well, that's a misbehavior, let's handle it and move on. Because that's just part of growing. It's part of childhood. Now, occasionally the parent has to say, that child's looking for understanding. What's a skill that I can teach them for how to get understanding? And just so you know, I've got a skill for that. So what is that skill? So I have these 4 children's books. They each teach the 4 basic skills of self-government to children, which are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. And this book here, Page Takes the Stage, teaches the skill disagreeing appropriately to children. So this is the one that you want to get if your children are struggling with disagreeing appropriately. But let me just give you a little secret. They're going to need to know what to disagree appropriately about, and you're going to want to help point them in a good direction going forward. So they're going to need the other 3 skills as well. Those 4 skills of self-government take care of 99% of all childhood behaviors, and this really is for any age. And I know this because I started using them when my children were babies and when my foster children were in their teen years. Sometimes even 17, 18 years old, they would come to my house, and those were the first 4 skills that I would teach them. Good holistic parenting acknowledges the family organization as the best organization to help the child solve their problems. So they don't believe in outsourcing a ton to other people. And I agree with that. I think that the family should be that first line of defense for the child. They are the ones that are helping to form that thinking ability, that heart, that condition of heart for the child from the very beginning. So that's a good thing. Although sometimes a parent does need help. A parent has some calmness problems maybe, or lack of calmness could be the actual problem. The parent maybe doesn't know how to correct a child and do it in a loving way or a consistent way. Maybe a parent is letting a lot of things go and creating wildness in their child. Maybe they're coddling the child's emotions a little bit too much and not teaching them what they need for proper behavioral success. There are a lot of things that could be happening. And so finding a program or something that can help you holistically solve your problems through the family is going to be the very best. I always tell people teaching self-government is way cheaper than therapy, okay? And it's really true. So just learn the principles and skills of self-government, such as I mentioned before, following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. But don't just stop there. Learn how to get a person calm or how to get yourself calm. Learn how to communicate and problem solve effectively. Learn how to praise, pre-teach, do an effective correction, how to help a person in an intensive situation when they're going completely out of control, how to open conversation with your children, how to run regular meetings and make plans with your children so that they will take ownership of their behaviors and their relationships and their feelings and follow through. That's all possible, and I teach that all in my TSG parenting course. Of course, this channel here is all about that too. You won't get the whole course on the channel, but if you go through a lot of the videos on this channel and subscribe to this channel, then you'll probably learn a lot more that will help get you ready to really move forward with your self-government learning. The holistic parent knows that every child is different. And so they oftentimes feel like they have to get creative about how to teach the children. But there's something that I have that will make it way easier. And that is that every single person needs these 4 basic skills, and they each have skill sets in them. So for instance, to accept a no answer, you do 4 things. You look at the person or the situation. You keep a calm face, voice, and body. You say, okay, or you ask to disagree appropriately. That's that other skill. Then you drop the subject. This is for any no answer in life. Who doesn't need that skill? Sure, people have individual needs. They have individual anxieties. They have individual experiences. But every single person needs to know that life's not always going to go their way. And they have to be able to be okay with it. And how do they tell themselves to do it? It's an adult skill for life. All of those 4 basic skills, as well as the other things I mentioned, the other teaching styles and things taught in the Teaching Self-Government program, are all adult skills for life. They apply to every person, and I can tell you this without a doubt. I know this because I took in the most troubled children that the world had to offer. I took in troubled teens, the ones that nobody else wanted, the ones with honesty issues, kleptomania, compulsive lying, anger control issues, attachment issues, sensory issues, spectrum children, ADHD, ADD, ODD, RAD, FAS, which is not called that anymore, but anyway, bipolar, personality disorder. I took in children that were very difficult. Most of the children had multiple of those things that I just talked about, and they'd been abused. That was intense, but guess what I taught them? those 4 basic skills, the 5 teaching styles, how to communicate and problem solve, how to analyze themselves and follow through. That's what really works. Self-government works no matter the child. And it takes into account too the individual needs of the child, because you can still have those discussions about what the child needs individually through the parent counseling sessions that are talked about in my program as well. Holistic parenting should actually be consistent parenting. I know that sometimes in order to make parenting feel individualized, people will not be as consistent, but it actually hurts your child if you don't do consistent teaching with them. So make sure that when you set up a program, that you will follow through. Also, any consequences that you use should really be consequences that make for quick consequences, easy repentance. When I say easy, I don't mean that the consequence itself has to always be easy, but it should be non-manipulative, so you're not trying to pull at emotional strings. You do something with the consequences that really helps the child accept their consequence so that they can learn self-government and go through that maturing process. So truly holistic parenting would put the focus back on the child, that the child has to learn from their mistakes, which means they need to see cause and effect. I know a lot of people who do holistic parenting like to focus on natural consequences, but very often natural consequences are actually not merciful to the child, or the child doesn't get the opportunity to actually acknowledge them because the natural consequence may happen to somebody else and it's never brought to the child's attention. So it's a good idea to do consistent teaching, use synthetic consequences because they're quicker. And I talk in my program about what types of synthetic consequences are going to work and be most helpful to you. To find out more about what I teach about this teaching self-government model of parenting that's very holistic, that really does work at training the whole child, then you'll probably want to watch my next video, which is called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. So click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.